Hello there, welcome to Gem and Me the Podcast Season 2. It's truly an honor to have you listen to my show. This podcast is here to serve as an empowering source, as a community and healer. Remember, you have the power within you to achieve all you desire to be and have. We all have obstacles, doubts, traumas to heal from. The only way to change our life is by changing ourselves. This is why you are here. To discover your unlimited potential and become the person you were created to be. Thanks for tuning in. Hello everyone, Gem and Me here. Thank you so much for coming in today and listening on. Today we have amazing ladies from Generation Fearless, Paulaska and Amina. And also we have Sonia who will be joining us. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an honor to be part of this conversation, to have a conversation about your event that's coming up of Fearless Growth and Development Institute. And so it's an honor to have you.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. So I always start with giving our guests a chance to introduce themselves briefly of who they are, and yeah. Paulaska, you can start.
It froze in my. I am Paulaska Ramirez. I am the founder, and executive director of Generation Fearless. I am first generation everything, first gen American, college grad, graduate student, doctoral student, professional, so everything. In my day job, I work in higher education, working with low income, first generation, mostly Black and Brown students. And I started the organization to give a space to be seen, to be heard, to be able to support each other and create community, because we never stop being first gen.
Awesome. Amina, tell us who you are.
Thank you. So my name is Amina Mostafa. I'm one of the board members for Generation Fearless. I'm also first gen, a lot of different things. So I was the first in my family to be born in the United States. Neither of my parents have a college education. I was the first one to graduate with a 4-year degree and then to go on and earn a master's degree. And in a lot of the conversations that I have with Paulaska, and then, I joined as one of the board members, is although we may come from different backgrounds, there is a shared experience of being first generation that really transcends different cultures and different backgrounds. And so I really believe in the mission and in the statement and the vision that we have. And then in my day job, I also work in higher education, working with students of lower socioeconomic status, and a lot of them also identifying as first generation as well.
That's awesome. You guys are doing it. I love the work you guys are doing. I'm a little jealous, to be honest. I'm like, I want to be there too. I want to make an impact. And I love education. So as soon as you guys said you guys are in higher education, I'm like, yes, let's and obviously I'm a first gen as well. And so it all kind of connects somehow, the synergy of us who we are, right? We're passionate about education. We're passionate about first gens because we are, and we want to help, so it all correlates. So I'm happy to have this conversation. I'm truly honored you guys chose me to promote your business, but also your upcoming event conference that you guys are having. And so yeah, let's get started. So could you guys give us a little brief summary of what Generation Fearless is, and what are you guys trying to do with this organization, nonprofit?
Absolutely. I think, and Amina Mostafa, she's one of our founding board members, it means the world to me, because her and Clara Diaz, the other founding board member, Generation Fearless was something that was in my head for a very long time. And one day I was and they had heard about it, in conversations. I always say that part of creating the organization was that my tribe, right, the women in my circle are all first gen. So we're always connecting and trying to figure out, did you figure this out? And talking about, the challenges of carrying guilt and how do we navigate professional spaces and finances. So I remember sending them a text like, are you for real? Because I need social securities and addresses because we're going to start this. So I am forever grateful for my entire board, but specifically to Amina and Clara, who took that leap of faith. But we started Generation Fearless, like I said before, because we are first gen everything. because there isn't a space that provides the support, like Amina being in higher education, Sonia's in higher education as well. And one of our other board members is in business. Two of the other board members are in business, but we noticed that it wasn't just our experience. A lot of our students would graduate and come back. And then they are also first gen, and they're like, okay, how do I figure out our next step? It is forever the experience. You're like, you figured out college, great. And then you're like, oh, work. Like, yeah, like what happens now? And then you're like, oh, I have a 50 like 401k, and how do I deal with this 401k? And all of that. So we focus on emotional wellness, having the conversations, like I mentioned, of guilt and how do we navigate spaces and not being part of, like, if you are first gen American, navigating two cultures, right? And then even if you might not be first gen American in your first generation college, how do you navigate blue collar culture when you're in white collar, and all of that. Then we focus on that professional development. How do we support each other to navigate these spaces that weren't built for us? And then we focus on financial wellness. How do we educate ourselves to build generational wealth, which is the foundation of our institute, right? When we go more into the details, those are the 3 pillars that ground our 3 days of the institute. But that's who we are. And I don't know if Amina or Sonia want to share a little bit more from their perspective, the work that we're doing and who we are as an organization.
I mean, you can go. I was just joining in, so I was trying to catch my bearings and running inside.
I think just to add to Paulaska's vision, I think I had like an epiphany a couple of days ago, and I had shared it with Paulaska. It wasn't a couple of days ago, it was a couple of weeks ago, in which I was sharing with her. I'm like, I see a national initiative to really acknowledge first gen in the college setting, and we see a lot of institutions trying to do gen forward and first gen programs and first gen honor society and departments and programs. But what about after, right? But what happens after that? Once they graduate, they're still first gen professionals. And so I think that's where Generation Fearless really fills in that gap, and in that way we're really the first to try and identify some of those needs, because we have seen, being in the higher education space, like our students graduate, and I don't want to say they have a quarter life crisis, but I mean they come
but
back,
they do.
but they do. Then they got questions. But now what? What about retirement? And what should they start looking for? And then they got questions that sometimes their parents or members of the community may not necessarily be able to answer, and everyone might give their opinion, but it's not they haven't been able to navigate some of those spaces, so sometimes it's not what they might want to hear, and so they just need help. So I think in that sense, Generation Fearless tries to fill in that gap.
And just like jumping in real quick, we all have these conversations all the time, right? But one of the things is that we talk a lot about is that, as being a lot of us, right, socioeconomic status has such a great impact. Because for many of us, right, being the first going to college, it's supposed to fix everything. We talk about, and Amina and I, again, having this conversation this morning, of education is supposed to be the equalizer. You get the degree and it's supposed to open all these doors, but the reality is that we see that it opens a lot of doors, but we don't get to navigate the same way. So that's why we have a holistic approach, because you know how sometimes crazy, and I know we have this conversation, I don't know if you feel the same way, but sometimes we feel crazy. I'm like, I've done all the right things. I went to college, I got the degrees, I've done this, and I'm supposed to be in this tax bracket. I'm supposed to be out of the hood. I'm supposed to be able to like retire my mama. And I am on the other side of the hood, and I pay some of my mommy's bills, and I am so grateful for that. But this education and this next step didn't fix all the things. So we focus on that emotional wellness, because we need to have the conversation of, you did all the right things and it's okay. And we need to continue to work towards the opportunity that you graduate, and then it's going to have a different, for my kids, it should have a different impact, right? Because I have access and resources. But being the first, you're still then, you got the job and it's still not enough to a certain extent. So I don't know if Sonia was going to say something.
Yes, first I want to say I am elated to be here, but I do want to apologize for my tardiness. We're talking about first generation, so I feel like with even being first generation, you have so many responsibilities, right? There's so many things that I have to be responsible for, and not just because I'm a first generation, but I think with first generation, you have the weight of carrying so many people in your family, carrying them emotionally, financially, physically, every which way. So that's why I'm late. I was with my brother who had surgery this morning, so I had to be there for him. Like, you know what to do, like, but whatever. But I do ask that you forgive me for being here. So Generation Fearless, one of the greatest things that I love about being a part of Generation Fearless is the safe space that we provide, not only to one another, but to anyone who joins, and just to be a part of our Fearless conversations. Just we have resources and access that we can connect you to, but the safe space that we provide you with in conversation and just being that ear, because a lot of first generation, they don't even have a person to talk to. If they do have a person to talk to, they don't have maybe that space to be vulnerable with them. And we can help, and we have helped other first generation women navigate through whatever emotional space that they are in. As Paulaska talked about, emotional well-being, we try to be, and I think we executed, if I must say so myself, I'll speak on behalf of us. We executed in providing any of our guests or anyone who's a part of Generation Fearless that space that they need to be vulnerable, to be naked and unafraid, to share where they are, where they want to be, why they feel that they're not there, and probably give them some tips on how they can get there. And the most important thing, to give themselves the grace to be where they are and not have this great expectation to be, someplace else. Because as first generation, we feel like, as Paulaska said, oh, I should be here by this point. I should be there at this point. I myself am a first generation student, and first generation period, but I am a non-traditional student. I got my first degree well into my 40s, my second degree well into my 40s. So this being a part of Generation Fearless allows me to give back to first gen. So you don't have to wait until you are 40, but if you do, hey, I'm like you, so that representation is what I try to bring to the table, to the first generation, to the Generation Fearless table. I'm sorry, I always go back and forth with first generation, Generation Fearless. Yeah,
Thank you so much, Sonia. It's an honor to have you here. I'm excited about having this conversation. And I really wanted to give you guys the opportunity to open the invitation and really share what Fearless Growth and Development Institute is going to be about. So obviously we want to invite folks and give them a little snip of what that will look like.
Absolutely. And we appreciate, again, like the platform to be able to have the conversation. And I think so much of what we talk about is that unless it's your lived experience, you don't understand the value, right? And that's a lot of the times when we have women connect with us, like Sonia's saying, it's just like creating that space for them to be themselves, and for you not to explain if you want to, but you don't have to explain into detail, because we get it. Like, we understand. Sonia's like, oh, with my brother, my mother was just on the phone about like X, Y, and Z. We all carry these levels.
I'm at my mother's house and I realized I didn't have a backdrop. I'm like, oh, she got clothes hanging in the background.
All these hats that we wear, all these levels of responsibility, and all of us, like Amina shared right in the beginning, it doesn't matter different culture, ethnicity, age, the time that we did it. When we sit at the table, we're like, oh, I feel the same exact way. And that creates a level of support that I think a lot of us don't get to have outside of in the workspace, right? The workspace, if you're around people that are all men or of different economic status or not first gen, they look at you like you don't know this, and all of that. But going back to the growth, the Fearless Growth and Development Institute, it started technically with my doctoral research. I got the opportunity of connecting with women across the United States and asking questions. My focus is on holistic professional career development and the impact on our career trajectories. And I got such great feedback, but specifically a question that I asked the women was, what was their professional identity? And women that had been in the field for 20, 30 years couldn't answer that, because we all end up in helping fields a lot of the time, right? And even if you're in business, which is not a helping field, but we're in business in order to help our community, to help our people, to get money in order to be able to make certain shifts. So I had a lot of conversation with our board of what I found to be needs from the research, and creating a space where we were able to kind of still be grounded in our pillars of our organization, that emotional wellness, professional development, and financial wellness. And I created a curriculum that does that, right? That in 3 days, we're able to dig deep. Our first day focuses on who is first gen and what does that mean, right? The intersectionality of our identity. I know me and Amina have these conversations all the time, because it's It's all these levels, right? So I'm a woman, I walk into space as a woman, and then you add being first gen, and then you add being Latina, and then you add low income background, and these levels of responsibilities. I can't navigate the same way, but we can say that for each of us, right? If you add being a mother, being a sister, having these levels of responsibility, but our identity is something so important because it impacts how we lead, our decision making, and all of that. And I think that we all talk about using that as a space of strength. So, we focus day one on who we are and what does that look like, because it impacts everything. I walk, especially now, I always say that I wish Paulaska now at 37 knew Paulaska at 25, right? Because I walk into spaces very differently because I'm so much more comfortable in who I am. You gonna get all of Paulaska in every space and it's gone. But I want women to feel like that, right? We talk about the women being grounded in who we are. So we focus on that day one. We focus on emotional wellness, carrying guilt, stress. We have so much trauma and experience so much trauma that we don't even realize is trauma because of culture, because it's normal, because we have to move, because we have responsibilities. Our last retreat, we focus on rest because it's something that is taboo. You're not supposed to rest. You're supposed to always be busy. You're supposed to be doing 1,000,001 things. So how do we focus a little bit on that? And then we end our day one with preventative care. So many of us, because you're in the going 100 miles an hour, you're not looking. And I know that for me, the moment I hit 30, my body was saying, oh, it's not the same. I just had a baby. My body is definitely saying now close to 40, you're not okay. But who teaches us to take care of our physical self, right? So that is day one in a nutshell. Our day two focuses on how do we navigate these spaces. So I'm grounded in who I am as Paulaska, first generation, everything Latina, but now I walk into a workspace that isn't ready for all of that sometimes. The tables are not going to get any bigger in some spaces. We are working with things that are inherently biased or racist or whatever it is. We need to be prepared to walk in these spaces and navigate them regardless, right? Because we're making shift, but the needle isn't moving fast enough. But I'm still going to be in the space. So how do we, what is our professional identity? What is our leadership philosophy? How do we network and navigate spaces that weren't built for us as women, us as first generation, us as Black and brown? Because at the end of the day, corporations don't always understand that if we focus on all of these parts of the employee, then that's going to help move your bottom line. If you're in a space that you are supported, all of you supported, you're going to work differently. If we get to acknowledge what our leadership styles and all of that is. So that is our day two. And we end our institute with financial wellness. And we start with real basics because they're not basics for us as first gen, right? It's like, oh, it's just basics on you should know about saving accounts and checkings and all credit. I know the basics of the basics, but I always share that my mom had sobrecitos, little envelope, and that was her saving method. My mom's retirement plan is me. My mom's person for everything is me. So she did not have the ability to teach. And now we're in different tax brackets, right? Or we now have retirement plans through our employers, but we don't know what that means. So we focus on the basics that are not so basics and how do we start preparing for retirement and doing a lot of goal setting. So the whole institute is very action driven. Our sessions are not like we have 3 sessions a day and it's a long day because our sessions are 1.5 to 2 hours because we're going to talk about it, but we're going to start doing the work. Because a lot of the time we sit in spaces and we hear about it and this is something I should do, but we don't take the time to actually do the work. So we have phenomenal facilitators coming in, all experts in their own space. Most of them, all of them are first generation, all women, all women of color with different identities that is part of their lived experience. So we're going to have them share a little bit of their story, their expertise, and help us take that first step into doing what we need to. So we're very, very excited and proud of the Institute because we know it's something that we have not seen out there. That was part of us creating it, of making sure that we provide women with this holistic approach in professional development. And then those that need continuing ed credits. We're grateful that through Georgian Court University, they will be able to earn continuing ed credits. But it's 3 days that build on each other, but we do have women that unfortunately do not have either the support or the time from their employers. So you're able to attend one day and that one day is still going to be impactful, right? Each day stands alone, but there's great transformation and power in attending all 3 days. But I think that's kind of the short, long version of what it is. I don't know if I'm missing anything, Amina or Sonia, of all 3 days. Something I'm forgetting.
What are the details? So maybe, if our audience wants to attend, the date and location.
So it's December 4, 5, and 6 in Parsippany, New Jersey at the Embassy Suites. The links are right if you go right onto our page on www.generationfearless.org. Right there, it's going to be a pop-up, but it's also one of the first tabs. We have 2 different prices because we know that every employer is not going to support. We're seeing it in higher ed, but employers don't always get it. So if your employer is able to send you and is on board, there's a price there. And then if you're self-sponsored, there's another price. We have a coupon right now. Fearless 2023 gives you 20% off. And for us, we're very transparent. That's for the cost of food and the location. As a nonprofit, I created a nonprofit because I feel a responsibility to give back. The information that I know, that I've learned, and the information that my board knows to be able to give back into the community. So the cost is just to be able to cover the cost of the food and the location. Even our speakers, we're so grateful. Our speakers are coming in for free pro bono just because they believe in our mission in order to be able to connect with other women. We're expecting a small group because it is intimate, right? We want to create a space where you feel comfortable. When we're talking about what you're carrying, what does that really mean, right? And giving opportunity of women in the room to be able to share what that looks like. We have a couple vendors that will be there as well. We're supporting small owned businesses that, you know what I mean? And if we still have space available, if somebody wants to say, hey, I want a table because I have a service, or if I want to be able to have a product, especially with the holidays coming around the corner, it's a great time to be able to connect. But we're super, super excited and proud. The dream is to be able to have this twice a year on this coast and the other coast and all of that, but we're excited to have our first year and to be able to provide women with a transformative experience, because we believe that's what it's going to be, that you're ending the year creating these shifts that you need, that when next year comes around, you'll feel comfortable and say, you know what, I deserve a promotion, and I'm going to have a tough conversation with my supervisor of what are the skills that I need, what are the things that I need to do in order to move to the next level. Or I'm going to take 2014 to, I'm going to buy a house, right? The market's a little rough, but you know what I mean? I'm going to save, and these are the things that I'm going to do to change. Or I need to go to therapy, or I'm going to be able to figure out how am I going to be grounded in who I am and be more comfortable in my skin. It's going to mean something different for each woman, right? Everybody's coming in with a different agenda based on their need. But that's the great thing, I think, of the Institute, that provides us the opportunity to take what we need. I always say you pick up what is related to you. If not, the rest you just leave there because it's something that somebody else might need to pick up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm happy to, I'm definitely going to be there. So I'm excited about that event. I wanted to open the floor. I mean, apart from like attending, right, and supporting this conference, like how can we support each other? Like, how are you guys like creating platforms outside of this, 3-day event if people are not able to come, or they're not in New York or New Jersey, right? Like, how could they support you, and how can we collaborate somehow?
Sonia, you want to talk about collaboration?
Absolutely. So we are always looking for collaboration, not with just other first generation females, but also with corporations, with nonprofit organizations. We are always willing to collaborate. We can come to you, you can come to us, you can partner with us. Economically, you can partner with us. Just like I said, with your finances, with your time, we can come to you and offer presentations, offer workshops. We can always speak about any type of partnership that you have in mind, and we can also discuss what we have to offer your corporation or organization.
Absolutely.
You can always check our website, generationfearless.org, for contact information for either one of us. And you can also see on the website when we have our Fearless conversations, and then feel free to join in, and we'll be happy to have you.
Absolutely. And I was going to say, like, and when Sonia's talking about workshops and coming in and connecting, we want to be able to, let's say, if an organization is trying to create that space, let us come in and be the facilitators of that conversation, right? Let's have, you know what I mean? What does it look like? Whether we're talking about emotional wellness, identity, intersectionality, if we're talking about what it looks like, if an organization has a small, whether it's a nonprofit or a corporation of women, that they're looking at how do we support them in order for them to move on to their next. So let us come in and facilitate a session on leadership, right? Because you have a lot of different workshops on leadership, but we go on values and what values look like for us, right? So a lot of the times it's the same information, but no one ever focuses on what it looks like for us as women in leadership, right? Even with our institute looking at professional development, there is a lot of different professional development out there, right? And if you're at the right organization, here's a budget and you can go do, but it's things that I can't do as a first generation Latina with my pajon, right? I can't walk in the space and navigate it the same way. So we like to focus on the reality of our identities and, you know, call out the elephant in the room. You can't walk in and do X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? And that's what we try to be able to connect with organizations that are willing to have us. How do we help your employees see that? Or nonprofit organization, how do we support their mission, right? If I can just, and I would say, share the dream of Generation Fearless, and they got me on manifesting, right? And especially at this retreat, I said, at our last retreat in May, I said it out loud for the first time with the group, but we are becoming an international organization, right? We are going to be, and we're in the works of being the resource hub for first generation women across the world. And that's what everyone on the board tries hard to do, to create a space where we're not going to have the answers for everything, right? We don't want to be the experts of everything because that's impossible, right? Acknowledging that. But how do I connect someone to you, right? Who you have your own expertise, and how do we connect them to someone in Texas, right? Or in the Carolinas or in California, to be able to provide the support that they need? And how do we become that for women across the world, where I'm thinking of moving or I'm having a hard time with this part of my life, and we know an expert somewhere else that can give back, that can connect, but help move the agenda so that we're in different places. So that in a few years, we're not talking about helping women navigate spaces that aren't built for us, is connecting them to the people that are there because we have a seat at the table, right? How do we start making more space at the table? How do we start building our own chairs? You know what I mean? And all of that. So definitely, like Sonia said, we are not funded by anybody except the people that you're seeing here on the screen. So we do not have any funding. We do not have any grants. Everything is funded, I would say, by myself and my board. We are small, having great impact, right? So if anybody has the funds to be able to donate, and we're talking about $5 makes a difference, right? Any little bit, coming to our event, if you can't come to an event, sponsoring someone, spreading the word. If you have any skills, if you want to join, you know, our team in any way. Again, we all work full-time jobs. This is a passion project for us because we believe the dream is for us to be able to do it full-time. But if there is someone out there that says, you know, I have a skill and I want to give back, like, reach out to us, because we're always more than willing to help. Or if you know, as your first gen experience, that it's like, hey, this is a need, it's something that we might not be covering as an organization, or might not be something that we have had a hard time with, but you know, as a first generation woman, I had a hard time and I wish this was there. We're always open to creating something that meets the need.
Awesome, thank you. And something that's coming up for me, I would say, like, I know Amina has her studies in psychology. So I'm a big advocate for mental health, and I would like to, like, ask you guys, do you guys have like, I would say, individual, like, guidance in terms of, like, mental health? You guys have it intertwined into your curriculum or maybe your program as Generation Fearless, of, like, providing some type of mental health advocacy or resources to our first gens?
Yeah, so for us, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but I'm trying to do my PhD right now, actually in counseling, and it actually has a particular focus on trauma-informed care. So
You're doing, not trying.
yes, thank you. Which
Yes.
is, as an e-board, I think we're all so supportive of one another, so I appreciate that. But we, you know, I've been having really interesting conversations with the e-board, particularly Paulaska, because we're located very close to each other at work, in regards to trauma responses. And so, to your point, for the Institute, we do have a component of mental health, and there's been a lot of conversations in previous retreats and workshops and fearless conversations that we have had in regards to mental health and it being taboo and self-care, and talking about that it's not just a want, but a need, right? And kind of unpacking the first gen identity and first gen experience and how that has really formed our worldview, our perception, how we walk through the world and how we react to it, and how people also react to us. And so we're very big proponents of it. We also have on our website a lot of different resources to finding people of color, therapists who identify as people of color. And so I think that's a really helpful resource.
Yeah, our website has all the information from Latinx therapy to Black women therapy to South Asian, because there is so much taboo that sometimes you want someone that looks like you to take that first step. Or, you know, you don't want to fully explain certain things. And not that all our experiences are monolithic, right? As first generation or as Black and brown, but there is something about seeing somebody on the other side that looks like you, that provides a level of safety and comfort. And we're still, you know, in January, we usually meet for our planning for our retreat, where we'll incorporate a little bit more of emotional wellness, a little bit more, you know, and like Amina and Sonia had mentioned in our fearless conversation, that's a lot of the times where we create the space, to create the safe space to having those conversations. And then sometimes outside of that, that we all connect with different women, that might not feel comfortable sharing because of, you know, whatever it is, or can't make it to an event, and having those one-on-one conversations. We also do a lot of the one-on-one, with our academic, and career coaching. So we have a couple of women that have reached out because they're in between of figuring out their next step. And we always get very excited to be able to provide the support and sometimes perspective, and not ever any of us claiming that we're experts. We're there to be sounding boards, to be able to provide resources. But we get very excited. There was one young lady that I was working with and did her letter of recommendation, and she got accepted into her program. And I was so happy, like, that she's going to go get her MSW, and, you know, figuring it out, right? From our initial conversations of looking at different things that she was doing in majors, or even one of the young ladies that attended our retreat, right? Hearing one of the speakers and then coming year 2 talking about how she was motivated to finish and, you know, get back on it for her doctoral work. That's the power of community, of being in the space, like that you hear somebody, you're like, you know, I think it's hard and I don't know if I'm going to do it. But hearing from each other that, like, it is hard and it's going to be okay. And, you know, you're going to cry it out. And I would say I cry it out and pray it out.
Yeah. If I
Sonia?
can add to that, that's one thing I wish that was on my mind to say. Being a part of this group of women, it's very motivating and inspirational. When you hear the stories of other first generation women, it makes you like, wow, I can do this. That representation matters. Paulaska's getting her doctorate, Amina getting her doctorate. Sonia's like, okay, you can do it too, girl. So I'm gonna follow in the footsteps of Amina and Paulaska and get
Come
my
on now.
doctorate too. But the motivation that comes with these fearless conversations, you know, it's immeasurable. So I'm gonna always pump Generation Fearless. When she said we're small, well, you said we're little, we're small, but we're mighty.
Yeah,
So
we're mighty. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Great impact because it changes generations, right? It shifts to everything. So that young lady, right, it might just be a handful of women in the past 4 years that we've been able to see certain things measurable, right? We met with you a couple of times, you applied to grad school, you went, and those are small things that we can measure, but just knowing that in a room, women feel empowered to move on to the next, a little bit of their self-doubt has left, that they feel like, you know what, I may ask the hard question or take the next step or look at something that shifts everything, right? And again, education not being the equalizer, understanding that, but I always mention my grandmother didn't make it to middle school. So for her grandbaby to be in this, like, in a doctoral program is amazing. Amina, same thing. So there's power in that. And when we sit around a room where you might not get the support at home or someone might not understand the journey. And I say a lot of times people don't understand the vision because it's not their vision, right? I feel I'm very lucky and blessed to have a team of board members that understand and see the vision because of their lived experience. But sometimes in your own journey, you may not have that. So it's great to be in a room of women that get bits and pieces of that. And they're like, you know, I get it. And like, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. And it might not be a doctor, but it might be an MBA. It might be a certification. It might be starting their own business. Whatever pushes them for their next is what we hope that we're doing in spaces like this.
That's amazing. And I feel like when you said about like, oh, it might be measurable to like a handful of ladies that you guys have heard success stories of, but you never know who that person, you know, has impacted as well. So it's like a ripple effect, right? Because we're all serving to some extent. And so, you know, that success of that, you know, lady that came to you and said, oh, thank you so much. You know, it really changed my life and my career, you know, like that person is also like, you know, sharing and serving. So it's like a, you know, an expansion of goodness. And so I've heard that you guys do like, I would say one-on-ones, right? Of like academic counseling or some type of guidance in that space. do you guys just do academic advisement or counseling, or is there more services or more like, opportunities to seek help from Generation Fearless?
I think anybody that has a need, we're willing to like have a conversation and see how we can support. I think right now, because we're small, our focuses are, on the coaching for the one-on-one that we're able to manage our fearless conversations that happen every other month. Then we have our one-day retreat in May. And ideally we're like in the future, we would want to have a 3-day weekend retreat, somewhere. But even the power of creating that one-day retreat, because sometimes that's all we have. When Sonia was talking about the multiple responsibilities in the beginning, some of us cannot afford or have the time. I can't. Amina and I are new moms. Our baby, we got babies. I can't leave for 3 days. Do I need it? Absolutely. Do I need a minute? Do I need a minute to be able to just sleep, girl, and be able to be in community? But I can't. So there's even so much power of it being in there for that day, for those couple of hours, that we're able to do that. And we're hoping again next year to expand each year. We just turned 4. Each year we add a little bit else, right? This year we added the Institute, and then maybe next year we add something else. And that's why, if women are hearing this and they're like, hey, I believe in the mission, they have ideas. We're looking always to add women to our team, to grow our board. Next year we're looking to build an advisory board, because one of it, again, if we're transparent, we're all first gen in this room. My whole board is first gen. So when we're looking at our social networks, we have the same challenges, right? And we talk about social capital, and if God forbid, right, I got sick tomorrow, I have big social capital. I have people that I can call on to bring me some soup, to help me pay a bill, to help me with the kids. I had an issue. I had to be somewhere for an event. The board couldn't make because everybody's at work. I had a member that attends all of our stuff. This is, I'll go to the event with you. And somebody else say, okay, I'm going to take your bonus baby to school. So I have community. But when we're looking as an organization to be able to grow, our resources are limited because we're the first, right? We have limited funds. We have limited access to organizations and companies. So, when somebody's hearing this and says, you know what, I have a couple hours a month, and I'm a good, I don't know, graphic designer, you know what I mean? Or I'm also a counselor, and I want to be able to create a couple workshops or a series. We're all for that, because we know there's a big need, right? And there's more services that need to be provided. But again, small and mighty, with our fearless conversation. And even last year, we were able to partner with State Farm, trying to build a bridge with the technology gap, right? Because again, even though we are seeing that we are first generation and are shifting economically, right? We still have all these responsibilities that I may be making more, but I'm so responsible for so many things that technology looks a little bit different in regards to investing when I have diapers or parents, or, you know what I mean? All the other things to take care of. So with the help of State Farm, last year we were able to provide, I believe it was 6 women with a laptop. Right? They were first generation, they were continuing their education, or were small business owners, you know what I mean, that needed these earrings keep falling, y'all. They're not gonna stay. That needed the support. So we're like, it is 6 women, but we were so happy and proud, and it made a difference for them, right? Who didn't have to worry about finding a device that had, the tools and the programs they needed in order to finish school, or to start their business. So again, if there's an organization here that says that, hey, we have to invest in this, we're definitely, because we have the woman with the need. We have all the women that need the additional support. But we're growing. Like, again, when I think of where we were 2019, and where we are now, earlier we mentioned Grace, and my board is amazing, and not because they're here, 2 of them are here, but when I get down and out, even right after COVID, I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Clara was just like, if you don't get out your feelings, and we're going to just shift everything to online and let's go. Like, and so I was like, you are thriving. Amina's like, my counter on the side, when I'm like, oh my God, this is hard. How are we all doing it? Again, working full time and doing everything. And this is what I want to create for the world, right? I feel very lucky. I'm blessed to have such a strong tribe of women around me, that keep me honest, keep me focused. And I hope I do the same to them as well. They keep them motivated, they remind them of their greatness. And that's what we try to do in every space. So if somebody sends a message and says, hey, I need help with this, I know nothing about this. I'm going to try to find somebody in my network, or, Gabby, one of our board members, has a phenomenal network. So Gabby might be the person that knows somebody who knows somebody. But we try to do that in everything that we do. So I talk a lot, y'all, so y'all just got to stop me.
That's amazing. I hear, like, I feel like as first gen myself as well, like we do have so many obstacles and limitations, but we have so much power.
Correct.
And I feel like we should shift and like say, like, wait, like, yeah, we have all that we have to deal with. We got it. We're doing
it.
But we have so much power. We have so much diversity. We have so much fuel and fire that we provide diversity. Like, let's start. I would like Sonia to initiate this conversation. I was reading her bio, and something that popped to me is I can and I will. And so I want you to start this segment of like the power and like how much power as first gens we have.
I look at it, so my identity, as you see, I'm Black first gen, Black woman first gen. And with that comes imposter syndrome for some. So it comes for me. So years and years it took me to overcome my insecurities. And so I had to like reshape my thoughts, reshape my perceptions. And I'm also a Christian. My identity as a Christian helps me to reshape how I see things. If I believe in the word of God, my word tells me that I'm more than a conqueror. My word tells me, my Bible tells me I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So why am I telling myself that I'm less than? Why am I telling myself that this work that you put out really isn't what you put out? Like, you don't belong in these spaces. So we have to change the narrative. We have to do it to our own selves. We can't just preach, change the narrative, change your thoughts, change your words. We have to live these words. We have to walk these words out. So it's me telling myself I can and I will. And I'm not saying that it was like instantaneously that I overcame. And even still, I have these moments was like, so what you talking about? You ain't doing this. But I have to, check myself. You can and you will. And that's just the words that I choose to live by. I can, I will, I do, I am. And I encourage any first generation person, woman, male, whatever you are, whatever your identity is, believe in yourself. Believe that you can, believe that you will. Don't let nothing, not even yourself, stop you from going after what is yours. See yourself in that position. Dress as if you're in that position. Think as if you're in that position. Walk in it as if it is yours. Walk in it as if I can, I will, I did.
Amen. Thank you.
Here I am preaching, right?
Yes, girl. There's a whole service.
You see what I work with? You see what amazingness I work with?
Yeah, Amina, maybe, I would like to hear your 2 cents, I would say, of like that, like the power that as first gens we have as well, because I feel like, we do have many barriers and many limitations and many responsibilities, but I feel like that's power of like, we are able to handle and break, different trailblazers, right? That's what we are, trailblazers. We're breaking rock, we're breaking land, we're breaking waters and everything in between to like, create a path, right, for the generations to come.
Yeah. And I think to Sonia's point, we see that, like, I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time as well. And I recently like wrote something in school about it. But imposter syndrome is very common among those who identify as first gen. That's not something that's unique. But I think that it never goes away. We're still first gen. So even me, where I would like to think of myself as a grown woman, I'm still, thinking to myself, well, I'm not sure if I could do that, or I'm not sure, that I could do that for a very long time, actually. And I shared this during one of our very, very first Fearless conversations when I initially had gotten into my role where I'm an assistant director in our program. I would never introduce myself as that. I would just say, okay, my name is Amina, I'm a counselor, because I never felt I was worthy enough or I was good enough to even introduce myself with that title. So even when I would work across the campus and other departments in a meeting, I would just say, my name is Amina, I'm a counselor, really minimizing myself because I never felt comfortable even in that role. But over the years, and I think being a mom has changed me for sure. A second time mom now, my little one is 9 months. I am much more comfortable in spaces, but I still question myself. Am I being too much? Am I being too loud? Am I being a strong advocate? Are they going to say I'm too aggressive, or am I being assertive? Am I this? Am I that? Always constantly questioning and double guessing myself. Like, am I speaking okay? I've shared this with Paulaska before, and she knows. I grew up in Jersey City, which is a very diverse ethnic place in New Jersey. I am very, very uncomfortable around white people. Okay, it's not what I've grown up with. And I always question myself, am I speaking correctly? Did I say something wrong? Am I articulating myself okay? I just get very nervous. And if you put me in a room, where I am the only person who looks like me, sometimes I'm gonna just sit in a corner and not really say anything, because I am so worried that I'm gonna sound stupid. So then I don't end up saying anything. But that is something that's not unique to me. Again, someone who identifies as Arab, as Muslim, that's a first gen experience. So that's why I very much, I love working with our e-board, because we have commonalities and there are certain similarities in our lived experiences, although we may identify differently. So I think that in and of itself speaks, very powerfully to the first gen identity, because it transcends so many different things, so many different identities that, that we have.
Thank you. Yeah, I really like the fact that you brought up the self-worth. I feel like as first gens, and I do self-gen and generational traumas and healings and all that stuff. So like that's my thing. That's my gig. This is why I created the Gem and Me podcast, to speak about these things. And so I feel like just because we're the ones really like opening these like can of worms, like, we have trauma, guys. Like, my mom has trauma, my dad has trauma, we all have trauma. This has passed to me, and now I have to heal it. I have to help my mom to heal it. I have to help my dad to heal it. I have to help my future kids to heal it, because I want to become a better version of myself, right? And so, like, I feel like as first gens, we have so much power and so much advocacy, right? And like knowledge, right? We have all these resources. We have communities now that we can, these platforms, for example, of like talking about it. We're able to talk about it. We're able to like raise awareness of like, guys, we have to really heal, right? We have to like start supporting each other. We have to like have these conversations. And so I feel like there's so much power in that, being first gen. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, it is, right? We have to like be a sister, we have to be a daughter, sometimes you have to be a mom to our moms, right? And that's a whole nother thing of like, giving certain responsibilities maybe too early, right? That's a whole nother type of conversation. Like, we can have a whole podcast on that. But there is so much that has built us, right? Like, we started early, we have so many skills, that maybe previous generations don't have. And so there's so much power in first gen. And so I wanted to open the floor for Paulaska to also give us a little, I guess, her 2 cents about the power within first gens.
I think it so much comes from, like you were saying, like, I remember being like 5 and translating documents that I had no idea what I was translating, but you're translating. And I think a lot of the times when we talk about the first gen experience, or even in higher education, we're starting of these are the challenges and the barriers that we have. And that is a reality, right? We have them, but I think that there's equally or even more skills that we bring to the table, and much more that comes from our lived experience that helps us be trailblazers in spaces because of our resiliency, because we are the first, right? You're talking about we're parenting our parents, right? It comes with this, we lose our childhood a little bit earlier, and it's not fair, and we're privy to finances and emotional wellness and all these other things that are part of, but at the same time, it gives us perspective and empathy and understanding in a way that if you haven't had to parent or your parent, you don't know what that looks like. So it comes with that. Recently I had done a talk and talking about like, where does our story start and the power of our story? And I shared little bits and pieces of my childhood and things of where does my story start? Does it start here or there? And I think every part of our stories is what builds a strength. You get a little bit from everything. Even if it was hard to navigate college for all of us by ourselves, we figured it out. You know what I mean? We were able to graduate. Like, there's so much power in navigating that. And we're all professionals and we all suffer, right? We're all transparent on our board of There's some days that we all sit there and like, do I really belong here? Should I really be doing this? But we have each other, but we get up and continue, right? We don't sit there and waddle, and we don't quit. And that is something that's the power of being first generation. It's not a luxury that we have, but it's also our superpower, that regardless of what we're experiencing, regardless of how hard it is, I cried out, I prayed out, you to get a long shower, you sit in the car for a couple minutes, we call each other, we text each other, and then you continue. And there is power in just that, in the continuing. That's where the courage is. That's the fearlessness. The fearlessness is not that we're not scared or worried when we walk into the space, is that I am terrified, but I'm doing it anyway. Yeah. I'm worried, but I am going to take this leap of faith because it's worked out before and I don't know what's ahead of me, but I'm going to move anyway.
I love that. I really love that. And I do feel like first gen is a superpower, like you said, right? I've been to a retreat actually, and this lady, she was, I would say white, and she's like, oh my God, like, I really feel like I've been in like colored spaces, like people of color, and I feel like you guys have this power, this energy, that is not the same when you have a group of white folks together, maybe doing a dance or something spiritual. It was about drums. It was like more like a ritual, like to healing and stuff. And she's like, like it's different when it's people of color. Like you feel there's some different sauce, it's special energy in that space, and that's what we have. And I feel like we have to own it, we have to step into it. And like you said, Amina, also, like sometimes you're like, oh, like should I speak, am I talking too loud, am I being too assertive? Like, yes, we have to be all of it, and we have to remind ourselves, right? Like I'm saying this because there's a reminder to myself as well. But we have to remind ourselves, like, no, like we're able to take up space, we're able to speak out, we're able to like say what we think and who we are, and express that fully. So I'm so excited we had this conversation. I'm so happy about the event. And if is there any like last thoughts you guys want to share with our audience, please feel free to do so.
I'll share some last words. Anybody else want to share, or you want me to just speak on behalf? So I'll give 3 things. But as first generation individuals, as first generation women, you don't know what you don't know. So I never want anyone to be afraid or feel timid about asking. Part them lips and ask. We want to be here for you. We want to, there is resources out there. So ask, because if you don't know, there's a question there. Ask. Number 2, we are all sisters in our own right to the people, that we have community with. The same advice you would give someone else, give it to yourself. The same grace you would give to someone else, give it to yourself. And last, come be a part of Generation Fearless. Be it attending our institute, we would love to have you. Be it as a contributor, as a partner, we would love to have you. Be it as a partner, as one who wants to be a part of our Fearless Conversations. We invite you to be a part of Generation Fearless.
Awesome. I know I'm part of Generation Fearless now. Like this is my first day.
We're glad to have you.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love it. Thank you so much for, creating this with me, wanting to be on here and speak to my audience. And I'm excited about the event. And I invite anyone who's listening and watching right now to really attend to this event, because it's going to be impactful. It's going to be a community, and I love communities. I love creating communities. I feel like we're stronger in community, we heal in community, and it's so important to really uplift each other and see like, oh, I'm not the only one that is going through that. I'm not the only one who's thinking that, And so I feel like there's so much power in that. So thank you, ladies, for having this conversation with me, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Gem and Me is a community of healing and transformation. I encourage everyone to start their healing journey if they haven't yet. Therapy has transformed my life in so many ways, and I am truly grateful for my therapist and the ability to heal. Once you start healing, the sky is not the limit. Don't pay attention to what others might say or think. Therapy is about you. about making you a wholeheartedly human being. Do this for you. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it is through text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient to you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. With BetterHelp, you can get the same professionalism and quality you expect in in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you. More scheduling and flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/GemAndMeEmpowers. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/GemAndMeEmpowers. I would also share the link on the show notes. Get healed, get right. Thank you. Remember to subscribe, share, and review our show. We love to learn your feedback and know how this information has impacted your life and how we can improve in the future.